Welcome to Keto Meals and Recipes.com. Today I'm going to show you the step-by-step instructions on how to make my ice cream sandwich that is keto and gluten-free. But before getting started, I want you to know that although you may think that the total carbs are rather high, there is a lot of soluble and insoluble fiber resulting from the almond flour, the coconut flour, and also the cocoa. Also, the ice cream sandwich is the same size as the ones you would buy in a grocery store. In other words, they're a full-size serving, and more on that later. The macronutrient ratio for each ice cream sandwich is 6.5 to 1, with 11.5 grams of total carbs, 4.3 grams of soluble fiber, 1.5 grams of insoluble fiber, resulting in 5.7 grams of net carbs per entire ice cream sandwich. So let's get right to it. On this table, I have assembled all the ingredients I'll be using to make both the chocolate cookie as well as the 2-ingredient ice cream. Recently, I've started using xylitol made from birch, not corn, as well as using my erythritol and monk fruit-based sweetener. If you would like me to do a comparison of other sweeteners, leave me a comment, please. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. The written recipe and all other links can be found in the description below, so go check them out there. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with the directions for the chocolate sandwich cookie. To prep, first preheat your oven to 175 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then get a medium mixing bowl and place a fine mesh sieve over it. To the sieve, add your fine almond flour, your coconut flour. Into the sieve, also add the cocoa powder. My personal preference is to add Dutch processed cocoa powder because it's not as bitter and it has a milder taste. And your chocolate cookie for the sandwich will taste more authentic, but that's up to you. Add your baking powder and your finely ground salt. Add the glucomannan, which is also called konjac root powder. Then stir or whisk everything in the sieve so that it passes through and aerates properly. After sifting, whisk to combine the dry ingredients in the bowl. Then, in a second bowl or your stand mixer bowl, combine the room temperature butter and the sweetener and begin whipping slowly. When these two ingredients are combined, whip at high speed until the butter is pale yellow for about 2 minutes. Since the butter mixture will stick to the side of the bowl, do stop occasionally and scrape the sides and the bottom of the bowl. After whipping for 2 minutes and you notice that your butter is pale yellow and fluffy, first whisk the 2 eggs together with a fork, and then, so that you don't get splatters everywhere, reduce the stand mixer speed, and while whipping, add half of your egg mixture. Then whip for a little bit, and when you see that your first egg amount has been integrated into the butter, add the rest of your egg mixture and whip until the butter mixture is completely combined. At this point, you may notice that the butter and egg mixture may look a little bit curdled or lumpy, but don't worry. This curdling effect is usually due because either the eggs or the butter were a little bit cooler than the other one. Just keep working with it. Your cookie will come together in a moment. Before adding the sifted dry ingredients, reduce your mixer speed again to low and add about 1 heaping spoonful at a time. Allow your dry ingredients to combine with the egg mixture, and then add another scoopful. Repeat until you have added all the dry ingredients to the mix and you have a nice dough. I also want to remind you that you should stop from time to time and scrape the sides and bottom of the bowl. After adding all of your dry ingredients, increase the mixer speed to medium and beat for a couple minutes. This dough is very sticky at this point, and to make things easier for the next step, I like to divide the cookie dough into 2 batches. Then place 1 batch of the cookie dough onto a layer of either cling wrap or parchment paper, covered with a second sheet of either cling wrap or parchment paper. At this point, I like to roll the cookie dough before chilling. I find it easier to roll before I chill it. And do shape it into a rectangle of about 12 inches by 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters by 30.5 centimeters. In order that your cookie dough firms up, slide everything onto a firm surface and refrigerate for about 30 to 60 minutes. you want the dough to be cool and hard. And the reason for chilling is because you're using a lot of butter in this recipe. And that's why the dough is so sticky when it's first made. Repeat the same process with the second batch and refrigerate. When your dough is hard and chilled, take it out of the fridge and trim the edges of the rectangle to straighten out the lines. Because you do want these to be uniform and a little bit precise, I'm going to use a ruler and measure out 2 inches or 5 centimeter widths and cut the length of it. Then cut the length of each row in half, which is about 6 inches or 5 centimeter. This is the size of a regular store-bought ice cream sandwich. Each slab will make 12 sections. You will need 2 sections or 2 cookies for each ice cream sandwich. Then cut out the second batch as you did this one. In between the batches, put the first batch in the refrigerator. You want this dough cool before baking. When you're ready, bake in the middle position of your preheated oven for about 20 minutes. A good way to tell that your cookies are done or almost done is when they smell really good. And when you look at them, the perimeter of each of the cookies is beginning to look a little bit darker. And while the cookies are baking, the next step is to make the 2-ingredient ice cream. Begin by pouring your chilled whipped cream into a mixing bowl, or as I'm doing, into a stand mixer bowl. Whip the cream at medium speed until it reaches a soft peak stage. I want to caution you here because the cream can turn into butter very quickly, so please don't over whip. It's really important. It's better to slightly under whip because you'll be doing more whipping later. Next, pour the room temperature sugar-free sweetened condensed milk into the whipped cream, which is at soft peak stage. Then continue whipping at medium-low speed, or alternatively you could use a spatula if you think your whipped cream is too stiff, just until the 2 ingredients are well combined. Now that the soft serve ice cream is made, cover the bowl and place it in the refrigerator until you need it a little bit later. The kitchen is beginning to smell really nice, and I put the ice cream into the refrigerator, so it's now time to take the cookies out of the oven. I'd like to point out to you that these cookies are not meant to be hard coming out of the oven, so don't overbake them. When these cookies are done, remove the tray from the oven and place the cookies and the tray to rest for 30 minutes. And the reason for this is because the cookies are really fragile and crumbly until they cool down. So don't try to move them at this point. After your cookies have cooled, use a spatula to carefully transfer the cooled cookies to a cooling rack. Leave the cookies on this rack until they're completely cooled and have hardened a bit. If you have time and you've made the cookies ahead of time, leave them to rest and cool overnight. Now it's finally the fun part, to assemble the ice cream sandwiches. So get your ice cream from the refrigerator. In order to make things easier for yourself, scoop and fill the piping bag with the soft serve ice cream. And also arrange the sandwich cookies in rows of 2. I find it easier to pipe a perimeter of the ice cream onto the cookie and then fill the center. Each cookie has about 1/3 cup of ice cream per sandwich. This will give you an ice cream thickness of approximately 1/2 inch or about 1.3 centimeters thick. And then I pipe the ice cream onto each of the other cookies. I take the second cookie and place it on top. Swish it from side to side very gently. This will help to settle the ice cream. And if some should go over the edge, just use your spatula to smooth it out. Although you may only want 1 or 2 at a time, it's a really good idea to make all 12 ice cream sandwiches because it's not much extra work. You'll find that the ice cream is very soft at this point and not quite an ice cream sandwich consistency. So put your ice cream sandwiches on a tray in a single layer and put it in the freezer until each of the ice cream sandwiches is completely frozen. As a guide, it should take about 6 to 8 hours, or better yet, overnight, for the ice cream sandwich to be the perfect consistency. When you take your sandwiches out of the freezer, it's best to eat them right away because the consistency is perfect. And as for the rest of the ice cream sandwiches, as I said, it's good to make the entire batch. Put these extra ones in an airtight freezer-safe container. But if you're stacking the ice cream sandwiches, do place a layer of parchment paper between the rows. That's so they don't stick together when you try to take out your next one. The frozen ice cream sandwiches will keep well if stored in an airtight container for several weeks. And I've had one survive in my freezer for 2 months and it was still delicious. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Now it's time to arrange these and take a thumbnail photo, while at the same time try not to be too long because I don't want these ice cream sandwiches to melt. Today is a really nice warm summer day and I've got my windows and doors open, so I better get to it and hurry. I would like to thank you for watching my video tutorial. If you're new to my channel, a very warm welcome. And I hope that you subscribe, turn on your notification bell, scroll down to all, leave a thumbs up and a comment, since that helps my channel. And I do love hearing from you. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Cheers!